Hey everyone, it's Jennifer. Let's learn some blends or clusters. These are 2 to 3 consonant sounds that we pronounce together either at the beginning or at the end of a word. These are particularly challenging for many of you out there because you either want to add a sound before or in between these sounds. This is going to be a very general, basic lesson with imitation and just awareness that you are going to avoid adding an extra sound. I'm going to give you a few tips on how to do this. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's talk about consonant clusters or blends. You'll hear them called different things by different people, so I included both of those for you. Today, we are going to be talking about beginning blends, L, S, and R, and then ending blends, L, S, R, and N. So for the next 5 weeks, I'm going to be posting follow along, repeat after me daily pronunciation practice. And let's start off with L blends. So for this, what I hear oftentimes is that people will say, pa lace, ba lame, sa leap. And you add an extra vowel in there, and then it sounds like an extra syllable. This is very confusing for your listener because it adds an extra syllable and it changes the rhythm of your communication. So we're going to focus on saying the first sound and then adding the L, but we are going to do it in such a smooth fashion that we don't add that extra vowel. Okay, so let's start just by repeating after me to see if you can fix it just by imitation and shadowing. Okay, here we go. Place, blame, glad, splice, sleep, clash, flash. Okay, how did you do? Great job. Now, you don't want to say pa lace or sa leap. We are going to say sound one, and you are going to think more about moving your tongue for the L to touch the back of the top front teeth, very specifically where the teeth and the skin meet on the roof of your mouth. Don't think so much about your lips opening too much. That is what we're trying to avoid. Think about the tongue movement. Okay, so we have place, lame. So think about your tongue, remember. Glad, slice, sleep, clash, flash. Okay, I'm going to make these words bigger for you. If you are listening to this as a podcast, join us over at Tarle Speech on YouTube and you can see these words. Okay, so let's try them again. I will say it, you try it a few times, and then I'll say the word again. And think about moving the tongue after the first sound. Think about that, and that usually helps people. Okay, we're going to touch the back of the top front teeth where the skin and the teeth meet for the L. Place, place. Blame, blame. Glad, glad. Splice, splice. Sleep, sleep. Clash, clash. Lash, flash. Excellent work. How did you do? I'm sure you did great. Okay, let's move on to our next pattern. These are S blends. For all my Spanish speakers out there, we are not going to begin with an E. It is not a scale. That is adding an extra syllable. So for you Spanish speakers out there, or anyone who adds that extra E at the beginning of this, just think about making that S sound longer. Scale, scale. Okay, so we're just going to make the S longer and then add the second sound. Okay, so just listen and then I'm going to have you all try the words. Okay, scale, small, spell, swipe, squeak, scream, slip, snack, stop, string, spring. Okay, now I'm going to have you repeat after me. Remember, make the S longer, no F at the beginning, and then think about moving to the sound without adding another up in there. So don't open your mouth too much. If you open your mouth too much too quickly, it's going to add another vowel, and it's either going to sound like eh scale or sa scale. We don't want either of those. Smooth scale. Okay, you ready? Scale, scale. Slip, slip. Small, small. Snack, snack. Spell, spell. Stop, stop. Swipe, swipe. String, string. Squeak, squeak. Spring, spring. Scream, scream. Okay, how did you do? These are challenging because you add that extra syllable if you make a mistake with these, and that gets really confusing for the listener. And on top of that, it becomes such a habit. So daily practice is really helpful for this pattern and for every sound for that fact. So make sure you join me tomorrow and for the next several weeks while we practice all of these consonant clusters or consonant blends. All right, so we have our next sound combination, R blends, everyone's favorite. Okay, so quick reminder, quick tip. Make sure that your R is long and strong. Rrr. Another tip is have your tongue ready for the R sound. What I mean by that is I make my R with the tip of my tongue down and the back of my tongue pulled high up. Some people make the R sound with the tip of the tongue flipped back and the back of the tongue pulled high up. Either is fine. No matter which one you do, make sure your tongue is in that spot before you say the first sound, okay? So I'm going to say the B sound in break. Before I even start to say that B sound, I'm going to make sure my tongue is ready for the R, okay? So I'm going to say break, break, break. The same will work for when you say the P sound. Praise, praise, praise. So my tongue is in the spot, and then I say the R sound. Okay, it's going to be a little bit different for drink and trade because for the D and the T, your tongue is touching the spot where the skin and the teeth meet at the front of the mouth. So the front teeth. So for this, you're going to start with that sound, and then you are going to pull the tongue either down or flip it back, okay? To have your tongue ready for this sound, really engage the back of the tongue for this sound, okay? So back of the tongue is engaged. It's pulled high up. The tip of the tongue is touching the teeth for that T or the D. And then you either flip the tongue back or push it down to the bottom of the mouth for that R. Okay? So let's give that a try. Drink, trade. Drink, trade. Drink, trade. Okay. Now we have the G and the K. To make these sounds, the tip of the tongue is low in the mouth, back of the tongue is pulled high up. For those of you who make an R like I do with the tip of the tongue low, your tongue is just going to stay there. If your tongue flips back, the tip flips back, you're going to move smoothly from that bottom to the flipped back position. Smoothly move the tongue while that sound comes out. Okay? So let's try those words. Grow, crash. Grow, crash. Grow, crash. Okay. And then we have two more, frame and three. These are kind of different approaches here. For frame, my tongue is ready for the R because the air is just moving out of my mouth for that F, so my lips are open. My tongue is ready for the R. Frame. Frame. Now for the TH, you are going to stick the tongue out, pull it in, and push it down, or flip it back, whichever one you do. Keep the sound going as you pull the tongue in your mouth. Okay, this one's a little bit tricky. Three. 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 Now, if this is really difficult for you, you can say this with a teensy tiny little I know that breaks my rule that we're not supposed to add a vowel in here. But this is so difficult that this works for a lot of my students. Say three. And then just make that little sound as short as possible. Three. Okay, so let's give these all a try. Break, break. Praise, praise. Drink, drink. Trade, trade. Grow, grow. Crash, crash. Frame, frame. Three. Okay, everybody, we are through all of the blends that happen at the beginning of words. Now let's move on to the end of words. To be completely honest, for most people, I just point out that you missed one of the sounds at the end of the word, and then they fix the mistake. So for most people, it's that easy. There are a few difficult situations, and a lot of them have to do with spelling, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But we will be going through the R plus a sound at the end of a word, the N plus a sound at the end of a word, S plus a sound at the end of a word, and then L plus a sound at the end of a word. For the S, we are going to be working on some of the patterns here, but then in a few weeks, I will be having a master class on adding the S suffix, and then I will be posting additional practice for S blends at the end of the word. So stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead and start with R at the end of a word plus another sound. For most of my students, just need to think about making your R longer and stronger. And that's going to solve all of your issues, okay? So longer R, stronger R, and then we're gonna add the extra sound, okay? So just listen. Afford, course, turn, heart, clerk, girl, birth, form. Okay. Now I'm going to say the word and then you repeat after me. Afford, afford. Clerk, clerk. Course, course. Girl, girl. Turn, turn. Birth, birth. Heart, heart. Form, form. Hey, how did you do? Awesome. So just remember, make that R longer and stronger, and that solves most people's problems. Okay, next up we have N blends. Okay, let's talk about what does your mouth do for an N sound. For an N, the air is going to move out of your nose. The tip of your tongue touches the back of the top front teeth, specifically where the teeth and the skin meet on the roof of your mouth, right here. Mm, mm, mm. Think about really hitting that spot for that N. Make that N sound and then add the sound. For most people, thinking about the N sound fixes all of their problems. And this is because the N sound occurs in most languages, but slightly different in many cases where you don't really touch the back of the top front teeth for the N. And so then it sounds like we're missing a sound. So really hit that N and let's give this a try. Just listen. Count, rinse, change, channel, stand, dinner, month. Okay. Repeat after me. Count, count. Stand, stand. Rinse, rinse. Dinner, dinner. Change, change. Month, month. Channel, channel. Everybody, how did you do? Just a reminder, really hit that N, really make the N in a very specific spot where the teeth and the skin meet on the roof of the mouth, and that is really going to help. We are going to practice the L at the end of words now in blends, and the fix for this is almost exactly the same. It is exactly the same as it is for the N. We are going to be very intentional about touching the tip of the tongue to the spot where the teeth and the skin meet on the roof of the mouth. And we're going to make a light L. Oftentimes my students make a very dark L where you make the L further back in your mouth or without truly touching anywhere in your mouth. And then this sounds like a vowel in many cases, and it sounds like you've forgotten a whole sound. So let's do the same thing. Really think about that oh sound, and that is going to fix a lot of our problems. Okay, so let's start with when we have an L plus a consonant sound, okay? Just listen. Bulk, gulp, golf, cold, adult, film. Okay. For a lot of these words, I don't really say a good strong L. So you don't really have to say a good strong L for these. And in fact, it feels a little difficult for me to do that. But if you just think about saying more of an L, that is really, really, really going to help. Okay. Now, this is where you really want to hit the L. When we have it at the end of the word and it becomes a syllable, because we're going to add ul, ul, ul. And that's basically your tongue moving from low in your mouth to touching where the skin and the teeth meet on the roof of your mouth. Able, uncle, awful, couple, eagle, capsule. Okay, so repeat after me. Bulk, gulp, gulp. Cold, adult, film. For film, it is not film. Okay, and now it's a syllable. Able, uncle, awful, couple, eagle, capsule. Okay, and now moving on to our last combination, we have S plus another sound. Again, stay tuned because we are going to be practicing the S suffix here in a few weeks. Okay, so just listen. Gasp, pencil, blast, disc, synth, burst. Okay, repeat after me. Gasp, gasp, blast, blast, synth, synth, pencil, pencil, disc, disc, burst, burst. Okay, excellent job, everyone. I hope that you found this helpful. Please join me for the next 5 weeks. I will be posting follow along, repeat after me, shadowing, pronunciation practice of all of these concepts that we just reviewed today. And then I will be posting a lesson on the ED and the S suffixes, and you will get even more practice on those consonant clusters at the end of words. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Join me every day for the rest of the year to celebrate 20 years in business. Thanks to all of you. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, join us over on YouTube at Tarle Speech. You could follow along with all of the words on the screen. Have a great day, everybody.